Trinity Fremont, we know that faith starts in the home. We also know that it can be difficult to take what we hear on Sunday and live it out in our homes the rest of the week. That's because information alone doesn't lead to growth and change. But information that's reflected on and put into practice is much more likely to lead to growth and change. Join us as we reflect on this past Sunday's sermon and give practical starting points to help you live it out, your faith, in your family, and in your community.
Now we are. Hi, guys.
Wow, look at us. But do. Hi, friends.
Hi.
We're here.
This is like videos and audio.
A long time coming.
Yeah. Happy 30th episode, y'all.
Happy Groundhog's Day. 30. Oh, yeah.
Happy 30th episode, y'all.
Groundhog's Day. So the groundhog saw its shadow today.
How?
What's his name? It's
Darn Phil. Punxsutawney Phil.
Punxsutawney. I was going to say Philadelphia Phil. I'm like, it's something
Sure.
Phil.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he saw his shadow, which means that we have 6 more weeks of winter,
Yeah.
and then at least 2 more weeks to flatten the curve. So
There you go.
yes, that was the joke.
The 2021 version of
Yeah.
Groundhog's Day.
Oof.
Well, if
yes.
you check the Fremont forecast, you can see winters.
Winter's here.
Been around.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Cold.
But
So-
not to take away from our 30th episode.
Yeah.
I was just told this morning that it was Groundhog's
I was just
Day.
going to like keep saying happy 30th
Yeah.
episode like over and over
We'll just
and
keep
over
going.
again.
Happy 30th episode.
Happy 30th episode.
We've done this
Wow.
30 times.
Yeah, well, we were supposed to do 30 times a month ago.
Yeah,
Thank
We
you for
finally
all of
made
you who have like hung on and came back after we took a little break.
Yeah.
It's a good break.
And to the people that reached out
Required break.
and been like, where's your podcast? Yeah, that's
Here
will
it is.
return.
Here it is.
You can't
So,
get rid of us.
Some of you this might be your first episode, especially as we get into video, as maybe you found us on YouTube, or maybe you're subscribed to Trinity and you got a notification that says, hey, they're going live. And you went, what is this? It's Tuesday, not Saturday night or Sunday morning. And you popped on. Welcome. This is the podcast. So for those of you who are new, or for those of you who have short memory and forgot who we were over the last few weeks, I'm Pastor Gerber, one of the pastors at Trinity.
I'm Stacy Gerber. I'm married to him.
I'm Lacey Steamer.
I'm Casey Roberts. I do the high school youth ministry at Trinity.
And I'm Paul, and I don't do anything at Trinity.
Liar.
Liar.
Neither do I.
Yeah. Yeah,
You both are so uninvolved.
Yep.
absolutely.
You can
Great.
ask anybody. No one will know who I am.
Yeah,
And,
no.
just in case you guys are wondering, because you really want to make comments, you can make comments, and please do, because we're going to ask questions. I'm hoping that you
So you comment right on Facebook or right on YouTube, and then Paul sees them, and
I'll see them, and then we can interact. Now, people who still listen to the podcast, you can still interact by emailing at
trinityfremontpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yep.
Everybody's covered, right?
There, I think so. Well,
All
follow
bases.
us on the Twitters. I think there's one follower, and it's me at PewTalk Podcast.
I had a hard time finding it on the Twitter.
Just search at
I did.
PewTalk Podcast.
I did, unless I completely spelt it wrong, but
Well, so PEW
Yeah.
Underscore.
just
TA. Okay, no, there's no underscores.
There's no
All
underscore?
It's all one
Oh.
word.
Oh, all right. We
Okay,
make
well,
that
I'll have
confusing.
to. I did. I tried to search it and I could not find
All
it.
one word. That's probably it. Maybe. I
That
don't know.
tried to do it.
No,
Oh.
that you didn't. Yes, you broke the Twitters.
I broke the Twitters.
And also, if you go to YouTube and just type in search for PewTalk, you'll find us. We don't have a video yet except for our intro video. But these videos are going to be archived there, so therefore you can watch them anytime you want. If you want to share them with anybody, if you get something out of the message and you're like, I really think that Bob would really get a lot out of this, so I want to share this video with Bob.
Bob's in jail right now.
Bob's in jail. So, you guys ever seen What About Bob?
Yes.
Well,
That's okay.
I'm asking the
Oh.
people. I'm asking the people who are watching us. We have quite a few people on.
All right.
Yay,
Hi,
fun.
people.
Hi, friends.
Hey.
So, anyways,
Yeah. So what about Bob? We've got a little pop what's it called?
Like what Paul has
Funko
behind
Pop.
him.
Funko Pops.
They can't
Yes,
see that.
they're too high up there. Up at the maybe
There's some
yes.
on the
Some.
top shelf.
But we
Doesn't
have one
matter.
for What About Bob, because we talk a lot about baby steps in the right direction. And Stacy was looking. She happened to look up on our shelf, and Bob had been put in jail by our littlest.
Like candle holder thing, and he was put in there, and a book was placed on top, so he couldn't escape.
We don't
Say,
know what he
"Baby,
did.
Did you do that? Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes. Look, I can nod, and people can see my face.
Yeah,
now.
yeah, there you go.
Right.
So again, for those
The
of you,
wonders of technology.
yeah, again for those of you just joining us, or for those of you who are longtime listeners but want to know or be reminded why are we doing this podcast? What's the point? Is it just for us to get together and talk? Yes, but also one of the things that I've really talked about, that we've really tried to kind of focus on at Trinity, is that information alone. You heard it in the intro. Information alone does not lead to growth and change, but information that's reflected on and put into practice is much more likely to lead to growth and change. And so, a sermon is more than information. But a lot of times we can get information. It can be that reminder of, how is God speaking to me? What is God calling? But it can be that information piece. And then normally, 10 months ago after church, everyone had an opportunity to sit around maybe with a donut or coffee and reflect. Maybe they didn't, but they could. And that's kind of gone out the window a little bit. And so what this is an opportunity for us to reflect on how God was speaking to us in that sermon. And then look forward at, how can we practice? How can we live that out in our homes? And so for you, we'd love for you to reflect along with us. And so as we ask questions, feel free to comment, feel free to send an email, but also let this be a springboard into your own reflection in your families, in your communities. How's God speaking to you? Whether it was through the sermon, or whether it's through your morning devotion, or whether it's just you were listening to the radio and something stuck out, take that, reflect on it, talk about it, and then don't just talk about it, practice it. How is God calling us to live differently? And so that's what we're about this week. This week I had fun with the sermon. It was one that honestly, it took me a long time to get written. There was a lot that went on last week as I was trying to prep for the sermon. And so it was actually Saturday morning at 3 a.m. that I went into the office and said, I should probably write this weekend sermon. But it was one that I kind of knew where it was going.
Behind the scenes, we pastor.
We all procrastinate.
No, it wasn't I really was not procrastination. It was, all right, I'm getting ready to write. Oh, this just came up. I'm getting ready. Oh, this just came up. So it wasn't actual purposeful procrastination.
There were distractions.
Yeah, I was
There you go.
distracted.
Life happened.
Life. But it was we really focused on when we see a need, that we should fill a need. It's very easy to say, oh, hey, I see this need in our community. Hey, Trinity, can you fix that? Can you fill that need? As opposed to, we talked about Stephen from Acts chapter 6, and we saw, there were these needs in the community. The widows weren't being served; they weren't being fed, and there was this need. And the apostles, the pastors, basically said, "We can't do that. We not because we don't want to, not because we don't think it's important, but we just don't have the time." And so people from the midst of the church, they stepped up and said, you know what, we'll take on this need so that you can continue to preach the good news. So we talked about, how do you see a need? How do you fill a need? And so what did you guys say? What spoke to you in the middle of that sermon? Where did your mind go with that? Did you start to think about, did you reflect? Did you start to think about how you can put it into practice? What stuck out to you?
My favorite line of the whole sermon.
I know exactly where you're going with this. I loved it.
So the best part about the sermon was the kind of the connection between Jonah and the whale. And Gerber's like, and sometimes we put pews in the whale. And we're like, we're fine here.
This is fine. Uh-oh. Alexa, let us teach you.
don't know that.
Alexa doesn't know that.
Want to try it?
What? Alexa off.
No, please stop talking to her.
Sorry, this is the joy of technology and
Yep.
live. Like if this were on the podcast audio, we could just edit that all out,
Yeah,
but we're not gonna.
I actually muted the mic, so hopefully we won't
There you go.
have interruptions from
There
her.
you go.
Okay.
Apparently, when you said the word set up pews, it sounds like
Something.
I don't know.
something that you say to address
That's not
There you
true.
go. No.
little.
But yeah, so
I don't
talked
know.
about setting up pews in the belly of the fish and just saying, yeah, this is fine. I'm comfortable here. I don't really need to get out of here. Have you seen that in your own life? Let's not like point fingers at other people, but have you seen that in your own lives at time?
Why are you pointing at me?
Oh,
But yes,
We can do that now.
Yeah.
I
do-
have names.
I do tend to stay in my own comfort zone. Not sometimes, most of the time, but I will branch out. I will get out of the pew that is inside the fish and try something different.
Is it a different pew inside the fish or?
No, it would
Okay.
just be something like, let's say, for example, just a VBS was put in my lap. I have not ever done a VBS before, but I rolled with it.
I would never have done that to you.
Yeah, somebody did. But hey, I made it work. I've never done it before, but I did it. And
we made it work.
we made it
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
This
Well,
is true.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a steamer paquette effort by,
Like whole family.
yeah.
Yeah.
Our kids spent a lot of time at school.
Yeah.
But no, but that was something I had never done before. And it was out of my comfort zone. You know, I could do a small portion of a VBS and be fine with it and be comfortable with it and not have any hesitations on anything. But to kind of go, okay, here's 5 days, it's 4 hours each day. These are what we're doing. And here you go.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, so I learned a lot.
Mhm.
Was it scary? Yes. Would I do it again? Probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But this time we'll get the Roberts involved. So
This
that's
Yeah.
is true.
What?
Welcome to VBS.
But
I mean, they did try to rope us in that because that was my last VBS at our last church, and it happened on the same week.
I
Yeah.
know.
So we were recruited the last time. We were just conveniently busy doing VBS somewhere else.
Yeah.
The exact same VBS.
Conveniently.
how convenient. Well, I don't know if I mean a lot of you guys, I mean, especially two of you, you guys are probably more staff.
Yeah. It's
So
kind of our job
and
to
you're
do it.
married to a staff.
Yeah, I would say I kind of default to it's my husband's job.
Sundays.
Sorry, honey. Then he ropes me into things that I don't really want to do, but can't say no to.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
come
it's
on.
not
You
always
can
bad.
say no.
I can't.
I just give you that little sad look. Oh.
Well, you got into the concept of the 80-20.
Yep.
So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So the 80-20 rule is basically this idea that, and it's kind of in churches, but it's not really like it's not just for churches, but this idea that 80% of the work gets done by 20% of the people. The majority of the work gets done by the minority of the people. It's probably not 80-20 anymore. It's probably slid to 90-10.
95.
And then, yeah, in
Say like
in
95-5.
COVID, it's like 95-5. It really is. And part of that is there are some of our normal volunteers who aren't leaving their homes. There are some who are just trying to not get into as many different places. And so I get that. But really, it really has become this last year, a vast minority of the people doing a vast majority of the work of the church. And that it gets tiring, but it's also what it is the church isn't being as churchy as it can be, especially in this time where there are needs. There are a lot of needs. And so it's really easy to just say, well, somebody else will take care of that. And a lot of that's because we have our own needs that kind of got at least brought to light if they weren't there in quarantines and shutdowns and things like that. And so it's hard to get people involved. But then also it's hard to say, because I did have some people come up to me after church and say, all right, I do need to get back. What do you need? And that's where I also want to encourage you. What do you see is the need? Not so much the question of, all right, church, tell me what to do. But hey, there's this need. I think me and my friends can fill some of that need. Maybe we need some extra resources. Maybe we need some more bodies and some more people to help with that. But here's this need that we see in our community, that we see in our neighborhood and in whatever. Will you help us fill that need? And as opposed to the two options of, hey, here's this need, go take care of it, church. And also as opposed to, all right, I want to do something, tell me what to do. Like, where are the needs? They're different in each of your communities. And so are there some needs that you guys have, in the last 36 hours, 48 hours, that you've been thinking through, that you've seen in your communities? What are some of those needs that you guys are seeing?
I have an idea.
Let's
Well,
hear it.
I mean, this is one of those. I've done Stephen ministry in my life down in Missouri, down in Blue Springs, and I always enjoyed Stephen ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And we brought up Stephen, but
Yep.
So Stephen ministry, if you don't know, is kind of like it's kind of like an individualized. I want to say counseling, but it is therapeutic.
Yeah.
Is a good word. Where you have caregivers and you have care receivers, and generally you are working with an individual, and they could be anywhere from because they lost a spouse or they lost a child, or maybe they just went through a sickness or whatever, and they just need somebody to talk to. It's Christian based. There's a lot of training, so it's not like you just kind of go, hey, I'm going to do this. So there's a lot, and then the care givers actually, because they're part of a Stephen ministry group, they get together, and so they have somebody they can go to and go, and everything's confidential, so we don't actually say who we're working with, but we can say, I have this individual that's going through this, and I don't really know how to deal with it, and then they have support on that end. So it's kind of a full circle, if that makes sense. And so I was always thinking, especially during the COVID time, we, a lot of people are lonely. A lot of people have gone through heartache, and especially if there's, if they had any kind of passing away or anything like that. So a lot of people are, especially who can't see their grandparents or parents or whatever. And so, anyways, that was the. So I'm saying this because I am planning on trying to do that for Trinity. I'm going to try to get that birth, hopefully, to then pass it on to somebody else and go, no, you run it.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's actually the big thing. When we talk about the 80-20, it's a lot. I think a lot of people might go, I wish Trinity do this, but I don't have the time to do this. And it's almost, we would almost be better as a church if we say, okay, well, let's take you in, let's look at your idea, and let's figure out how to birth this, so therefore we can get it going, because there is a need.
Yep.
But we can't expect the church to run everything. I mean, I'm talking about the physical location,
right?
Trinity staff, not the church. Now we can expect the church, us,
the big C,
to run everything. We can do everything. And as we talked about, 95.5. That means we're 5% effective. Yeah. Efficient. I think efficient would be a better word.
That's horrible.
Yeah. Think of it in that terms. And even if you did 80-20, that means we're only 20% efficient. If we were in Toyota, we'd be fired.
This is true.
So
let's not get fired.
Come on,
Casey, you brought up a point yesterday in our text, and I had no idea where you were going with.
So,
Me either.
well, and it's pretty vague, because my whole adult life, as I'm trained as a director of Christian education, and my whole adult life I've been on the staff side, whether as an intern or part-time youth ministry, full-time, whatever it's been. So it's very, I can not only see myself, but I can also see other staff members, and most of us are in ministry because we love God and we love people. And so it's really hard to say no to something that involves helping people and loving God at the same time. But there's a side that the congregation doesn't see, that can be physically draining, because when you have to do it all, you can't do it all, and you definitely can't necessarily do it all well. And for me, what I'm conscious of also is, in looking at, if you were to look at things like a budget, if you spend money, for an extra meal at McDonald's, it means that not as much can go to another area. And, if we're talking about time as a budgetary resource for staff, that's less time they have with their families, and the families don't get to see the wonderful things that the staff member is doing for God. They just see that my family member isn't there. And there's a certain level, like emergencies come up, like someone goes to the hospital, you need to be there. But it's important to remember that staff are people too. There is a physical toll to that, and a time management toll. But going back to what Paul said, where do we start? What are there individual areas that we can look at? For me, going back to the VBS idea, at my wife and I's last church, VBS, there weren't a lot of volunteers involved, and the volunteers initially that did it did a ton of it. Like, they deserve a ton of credit for what they were able to pull off. They were amazing. But the general idea is, when you came to someone to ask them to help with VBS, you're like, you want me to run a classroom? Like, that was their first thought. And that's intimidating if you've never run a classroom in your life. And one of the things that we found, the classic saying, many hands make light work. No, you don't have to run a classroom. I just need someone to divide up the snacks, like literally just put them on the napkins and get them on the tables. And a lot of our volunteers are like, oh, I could definitely do that. That's not intimidating. And I don't have to speak in front of anyone, and I don't have to, look silly. And what we found is that we could get more volunteers by asking for less intimidating jobs at first, because not everyone, some people, like my wife, has no problem getting in front of a classroom. She says she's horrible at public speaking. I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I'm on video record here. She's wrong. She is amazing at public speaking. She is phenomenal at it. But there are some people who would love to help with VBS, but don't have the personal, the spiritual gifts to be in front of a classroom. But you can still serve, and it can be in a smaller way.
Well, and that's the body of Christ, and that's what I think when people hear I need to go serve. I should serve, that there's this feeling that it has to be big and huge, and it has to be this huge program that needs 40 people to help run it. That's why I really like the phrase "see a need, fill a need," because if there's, Lacey, you talked about this a couple weeks ago. There was a neighbor who wasn't feeling well, wasn't doing well, and the simple thing of just taking them food.
Yep.
There was a need. You filled the need. That is the church being the church. Not, we started and we could, but not this, I saw this need in this one person, and so we built a program at the church to make sure that every person that got sick had 12 meals. That would be fantastic. But it's not, sometimes we get caught up in this red tape of, we got to make sure that it can be fun. Like it really just is.
Take the first step.
That first step. There's a need in this community, in my neighborhood, that I can fill. Or there's a need. I'm not a great cook. I know they could use meals. Oh, you know what? Meatballs. But I do know 5 people that are great cooks that love to. So I can call those 5 people because they don't see the need. They don't know that need is there. But I can be that intermediary.
I also think that, sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
I also think that a lot of people, they think that if they enjoy it, because they have a gift in something, then it's suddenly it's like, well, I'm not actually. Well, for instance, I was talking to my sister. She was starting a soup thing in Buffalo, New York. And And she, basically she went up to somebody who doesn't volunteer for anything and was like, "Hey, you're a great artist. I really need art for this flyer thing." And this person put this beautiful thing together for her.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there going, well, I really like music. So therefore, because I think you said something in the sermon about, well, a lot of people just do it if it's beneficial for them. Right. Or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I really enjoy the music. Does that mean I'm doing it because I enjoy it? And then my sister was like, well, no, you have this gift to do it and you're using it. And so I'm like, all right, you're kind of right.
To me, I was talking more about when I was saying that, it's more like, oh, if it affects me, if it benefits me, because it's my need, I need it. You're not doing it because it's your need.
No, but it does benefit me because I really enjoy playing.
Yeah.
So
and with serving, we tend to attach the word sacrifice, which we're serving God and we're serving His people. So, and we've got this idea that we have to be miserable while doing it. So we're serving God, the source of all joy, the creator of joy, and we get the idea that we shouldn't be joyful at all.
Right.
It's sometimes, there does have to be some level of sacrifice. I do totally agree with that. But if you're not enjoying what you're doing, that's the first. Maybe that's God showing you can serve, but
maybe somewhere else.
How many times have we heard, particularly people who have been in careers long term, work for something you enjoy and not for the money, because in the end, you can make all the money in the world and be miserable, and that means nothing.
And I like the word fulfillment, right? Maybe you don't necessarily enjoy it, but you go home and you're like, oh, that was good. Like that filled my bucket. Because I did talk about that there are a lot of, you talk to people who are constantly serving others, who are loving others, who are giving generously. They will often say, man, I got more of that out of than I think the people that I served. And then it's often true because they're fulfilling their vocation, their calling in their life. That makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Because that's what God has built into you. That's good. Do that.
Well, and it's something too where start out small. Like I remember when we moved to Fremont and we joined Trinity, and I was like, okay, how do we get involved? Type of a deal. Like I wanted to be involved, but I didn't know what to do. And I think something was stuck in a church bulletin, like, hey, if you ever want to provide like sandwiches or a cake or something for a funeral, let Joanne in the office know. And I'm like, I could do that. I'm like, nobody would know that it's mine. I could do that. So that's kind of how it started, and then I had can't remember who it was, some teeny tiny little lady would call me and she's like, Lacey, this is so-and-so from Trinity. Can you bring a salad? I'm like, oh yeah, completely, bring it in, drop it off. And that's good to go. And it's just kind of.
Did you make this same salad every time?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I'd always make a different salad.
Because there's some of those ladies that they'll get called and it's like, can you bring this specific salad? Because everyone wants this specific salad.
Oh, maybe my salads aren't good then.
Oh, that maybe it was variety. Like.
Yeah.
Oh,
maybe they do.
No, we'll try again, Lacey. Can you make a different salad this time?
Is there anybody out there who has tried Lacey's salad? Make a comment on your favorite one. And bring it to church next Sunday.
Why do you think you got called 3 times to the same funeral?
Well, I know. Now I'm like, oh shoot, maybe my salads are awful.
No.
I make a fantastic cookie. Maybe.
Ooh, I
didn't know
cookies.
that.
I'll just be honest. I prefer cookies to salad.
I'm with him on this one.
I asked you to bring a salad and you brought a cookie.
I know. Sometimes.
Salad.
Well, I have even asked. I'm like, because they're like, can you bring a salad? I'm like, I would rather bring a cookie. And they're like, okay.
Just one cookie.
Salads
just
are
one.
like too big.
You did salad once, so you must always do
I'm like,
salad.
Yes,
can I
that is
bring a
true.
dessert now? But no, that's just kind of how it started. And the same thing with Peyton's first grade year was our first year at Trinity too. And I was like, okay, I had the ability to stay at home with our youngest at the time. And I was like, I'd like to be involved with school. I'm like, I would like to be involved with that. How would I do that? Not knowing any parents, anybody else in the class, not even knowing the teacher. And Mrs. D had sent home a thing. She's like, if you'd like to volunteer in the classroom, here's some things that you can do. And one was sharpen pencils. I'm like, Yeah, I can totally do that. So I started my whole Trinity career out with making salads, or I think salads, I don't know, and sharpening pencils.
Yep.
And now it's turned into
All the things.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're
That's
you're
great.
actually 10% of that 20%. So
yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
it's true. But I enjoy it, and that's just it. And like with this podcast, I enjoy this too. So
Mhm.
it doesn't feel
Like you're sacrificing enough, so it doesn't
Yeah.
count.
And I don't know.
Get that out of your head. You all out
no,
there.
No.
Get that out of your head.
I don't necessarily have that in my head because I'm like, no, it's still for the good of the people. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's still for the good of the people, even though I'm getting something out of it too, which your life should be fulfilling. If your life is not fulfilling, then you should adjust what you're doing to make
Mhm.
at least a piece of it fulfilling. But I think we all have in our head though, that in order to feel good about something, you have to feel miserable about doing it. And that's,
Yeah, not in
That's
order for
not
you to
fair.
feel good, but in order for Jesus
Just-
to
yeah.
feel good about, it has to be awful for you.
right.
I'm gonna be honest, and don't get mad at me, y'all. And
if
I'm
you
looking.
do, you can comment.
Yeah,
Maybe-
comment. Email
I'll make cookies to anybody
you
that makes
email
a
Paul
comment.
Paquette at. No.
His phone number is.
Yeah,
You don't have to do that. You can just comment on this first stream, and you can
There you
do
go.
as many angry faces as you
Yeah.
want.
No angry faces.
so I think we teach that.
What do you
that
mean?
To serve, you have to kind of hate it, or it has to make you miserable. And I got that. We talked in elders last night, and this was brought up, and I pushed it away a little bit. But I think we start that with acolyting. Some children love to acolyte. Okay. Some children, like I've had kids faint on me because they were so afraid. And we said, okay, sorry,
Oh, really?
you're on the schedule next week.
Well, that's awful.
And we've just kind of perpetuated that this is what you do. This is, and so for some kids, we're teaching them that the way you serve the church is by pushing through being miserable. And so I've kind of been trying to play around with what are other ways that kids can find a way to serve, through confirmation. So we're not saying, yep, you get out of it. If you don't like acolyting, don't do anything. No. And I do, like, there are some kids that have still asked, like, can I just acolyte? I know we're not doing acolyting right now because of the COVIDs. But can I do it anyway? Yep.
I'd like
Let's
to
encourage
see
that.
I'd like to see the confirmands start acolyting again.
I'd like to see them serve anywhere.
Well,
like
right.
if that means going back in the tech booth and serving in the tech booth.
Yes. Tech booth.
If,
Yes.
yes.
That'd be good.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Or if you're not an acolyte, if you're not a confirmand and you would like to serve in the tech booth,
Reach out.
or you like to play guitar, or
Yeah.
you like to play piano,
If you want
or
to do any kind of instrument,
or you like to play organ, great. Let us know.
Yep.
Can
Or
we
you
work
like to
in a
teach younger
banjo?
children.
Or you like to teach younger children.
There you go.
Or you like to help with the older children?
Yep.
Yeah. There you go.
so
So
you're
How
saying
old are we
there's
talking?
needs all around?
There
Mm.
are.
These guys are crazy.
Maybe one day we can have a nursery again at church.
Nursery.
Once the
You
But
know,
something
this
that
is
you
what
enjoy.
we're talking about. This is what we're talking
Yeah.
about. Was Trinity? I wish Trinity would do these things. Well, if we wish these things, that we need to get them going. The problem is that the people in this room have already done a billion things.
yeah.
We can help identify some needs, but we don't want to tell you what to do.
But we will encourage you and support. That's the
Yeah.
big thing.
Yep.
So for those of you joining us, what are some needs that you see, and just let us know what are some needs that you see, and how might you? What's one way that you can but just like this little tiny? What's one thing that you can do
Now would be
to
a
help
good time
fill
to-
that need?
Yeah, now is a good time to tell us this stuff because I think on Saturday we're having some sort of like big meeting on like what
Yeah.
we're doing for the next 10 years or something.
Something like that. Yeah.
We are.
And so if you
Yeah.
have ideas,
Oh.
email us, email Gerber.
Yeah.
You can
I'm at a
comment right
basketball
now.
game.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, everything is based around sports. So
Well,
therefore,
no, I was like, wait a minute. There really is. I'm okay. we
You're
all
not
know.
on leadership board or
Oh,
any of the
whew.
councils
Yeah.
and
Okay.
elders.
Meeting,
So
but not one for you.
Well, sometimes I get nervous. I was like, oh shoot, did I miss
no
something?
meeting for you.
No.
Okay.
I don't
You'll
know.
be notified.
But so
later.
Yeah.
yeah,
I'll get the
I'll tell you
memo.
what you're doing
You're good.
because of the
Yeah.
meeting.
After the meeting, we'll give you a list of stuff.
There
to
we
do.
go. Here you go. And I'll
Can
just
you
pick
accomplish
two.
these things in like 2 weeks?
You know,
Thanks.
what if everybody just had a couple ideas and then everybody just had to pick one?
It's kind of like what we do every week at confirmation.
Yeah.
We study some theme in the Bible, some text, some topic, and then families. I give them 20 minutes usually. Sometimes I talk too long, and so they don't get 20 minutes. Sometimes they don't talk at all, and they stare blankly at me, so I give them 40 minutes. But the whole last 20 minutes is all right in your families. Here's what we've talked about. Brainstorm all the ways that you can live differently.
Mhm.
But then at the end, pick one, because you can't do 42 things new in this 1 week. Pick one thing that you can do to live differently. So what are some other needs that you've seen in the community that you have maybe reflected on that if y'all are watching on the video, you can see me staring directly into my wife's temple because she was trying to not look at me.
Well, you're talking about do the one little thing.
Well,
and
yeah.
I'm thinking what I have to say is not one little thing, it's one gigantic thing.
But
I don't know what to
What's the
Spew
one
it
step
out.
that you can take this week?
I don't know yet.
Towards said one gigantic thing.
Baby
So I was
steps.
trying. You said yesterday that I was going to share this, so I was trying to think of how do I share this.
I didn't give her an option.
He didn't, because I told him this on Sunday, and then he goes, "Okay, now tell the world."
Let's go.
So I'm trying to think of how to share it without going into a 40-minute spiel. So
Go for it.
We have time. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Basically, I've been praying about something for a long time. We knew that I was going to be a stay-at-home mom basically since we got married. That was kind of when
Yep.
we had children, Stacy would stay home with them till they got to school age. We'd evaluate that later. But next school year, we'll have 3 in full-time school. So I'm kind of lately been this restless feeling of, okay, Lord, what's next for me? I have a degree in family life ministry, a master's degree in family ministry. That doesn't put me in any specific field or career. I could do all kinds of things with this. So where are you guiding and leading? You don't have to tell me right now, but prepare me and kind of push me in the right direction so that when the time comes, it's kind of a natural flow and we know this is God's will. So I pray about that fairly regularly, just open my heart to whatever's next. And Sunday, this was even before worship and the sermon. So that God's timing was kind of obvious on Sunday then as he's speaking through my husband in the sermon.
I just
too.
stared at her the entire time and preached.
I hadn't told you this
I
yet,
know.
though, because you were already gone. So I was praying about it Sunday morning, and all of a sudden it was like light bulb. I'd had this thought, like, how can stay-at-home moms like me, we have all these skills and we've been working and raising our children. We have these skills, but not necessarily hireable on a resume. Like, I don't know what I'd even put on a resume at this point. How can we empower women in those roles? This is important work that we are doing, whether or not we're working part-time, full-time, staying home with our children. We have these skills that we can share with other people. How can we use that in a kind of business model, whether or not it's profit or not? How can we use this? So this has been in my brain for years. So this is not something that God just said, do this random thing. Like, this is something I've been praying about. But the idea of mentorship, like, popped in my brain Sunday morning. I'm like, that
Yeah.
could work. So now I have this entire business model, nonprofit. Apparently I'm supposed to start up. I even have a name. Like,
Come on, give it. Go.
It's called Call Your Mom.
TM.
I love it.
So basically, this idea of women's mentorship, there have been times in my life when we have moved, when we first had children, where I did not have this community of people that I knew because we were new in the community. My mom and his mom were 600 miles away when we had our first baby and successive children. So I didn't necessarily have this community, but I had questions and I had needs and I was lonely. And I would have loved somebody to just call and say, hey, I'm struggling. Can you help me with this? When I was in college and away from my family for the first time, I don't know
You
how
were
to
like
make friends.
20
I
miles
don't
away
know.
from
I
here.
know. I lived in the same town, but I felt like I was far away. I'd moved out for the first time.
I
So
know.
these things, as women especially, we like community and we like connection. And especially after this year, I've seen that need of women wanting more connection more than ever. And how are we guiding each other? Kind of like what Paul was talking about with Stephen Ministry. Like, we just want community. We want somebody to talk to. And we as women are great at that. So some kind of mentorship program that places women of all ages. Like me right now, I could be a mentor to a younger mom. I have enough experience. Women in nursing homes can maybe not have anybody in right now, but we can utilize technology too in ways that we've learned this year. Oh, this does work in this way, and this is beneficial. So sometimes those little things become very big things. And so now I'm like, I don't even know where to start, Lord, because I don't know how to run a business like that. I wasn't really looking for this full-time plus position. So I'm going to need a partner, a couple partners, and a whole team of people behind us to help us get started, and then recruiting mentors and training. And how does this even work? But just like this week, I mean, it's only Tuesday, but I have all these ideas of what this could be and how mentorship and community and connection within a city can help a city grow. And under all of this, in my head is the Titus 2, which is used a lot for women's ministry. But basically, the older women are training the younger women. Did I say children? Older women training younger women. How to be good wives, how to be mothers, how to live their lives well. And I haven't seen that that played out very intentionally lately.
Right.
So I feel like if we can focus on that, how do we as women, how do we share our lives and encourage other women to live their lives well and to give back and to live with intention? And so sometimes those little things do become big things. And I feel very uncomfortable now. Once you make me,
I love
to
this
make me
idea.
share
I'm
this,
sitting
like
here
I'm
just like,
kind of committed to it. But
So,
it's not a bad idea. I just like, why am I
love
qualified
it.
to do this, Lord? So
like my heart is growing. I'm like, that
right?
is fantastic.
Right?
That's a
Because
great idea.
like all the reach out stuff that you have seen in the past has all been just airing dirty laundry. It's not been a positive take on parenting relationships. It's not been positive.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I just love this.
Mhm.
And I would
Right?
I would completely like jump in and
You
help
could
you
be a
with
mentor.
this.
Yeah, I'm sure that
Yeah.
Lori would too. I'm just looking
I
at
know.
you.
Yeah.
The other side is that I'm not a mom, but I have a lot of business experience. So
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, so
I can help.
a couple things. If you're joining us today and you are like great at writing grants,
Yes.
feel
Feel
free to reach out.
Right?
There's got to
Yeah.
be grants for this.
I mean,
But
I'm looking
also,
at like mentorship is usually, especially for women, is in a workplace.
Uh-huh.
But I would love a mentor, like
Yeah.
help me walk this road of being a mother and a wife and
I
whatever else. Like,
completely would have used it.
so to come into like mentorship of just people, this is discipleship in the church, right? Like this is what we're to
Call
do.
your mom.
Call your
Call your
mom.
mom.
so
I love
but
it.
also bigger than more importantly than that, before 501c3 gets put together, if you're a new mom out there or new to the Fremont community and you want to call your mom and your mom's not here, I'm not going to give Stacy's phone number right here, but send us an email, Trinity Fremont podcast @gmail.com, or comment or whatever, and let's get you connected. Let's take that one step of seeing what this could do for our community. That's to raise up Christ followers in our families, in our communities, and part of that is just raising healthy people. And mental health is something this year, especially that there's always been a stigma to it, but I think, or I hope that this year there's more of this realization that we all need someone that we can talk to, and for some of us, it needs to be someone who is trained professionally in that. For others, it's just, I just need somebody to get this out.
Yeah.
I've been a couple of friends from seminary. We've tried different ways to connect, and a lot of it has been through text. And one of them just downloaded Marco Polo a couple weeks ago, and boy, there was a day this last week that the word I used over and over was meh. Like I just was this just meh. Like it was just this. It wasn't like I wasn't in the
Not
dumps,
Hevel.
depressed.
It
It
wasn't
wasn't Hevel.
Yeah.
No, not quite Hevel. But I wasn't. It was just this.
That's the coof speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I just got on. I just talked at him for probably 5 minutes. But because I knew that he was going to watch it, because I knew that that he cared about me and was going to respond, even before he responded, like I was already in a better place because I had just been able to talk it out.
Yeah.
Some of it was the gripe, complain, get it out, but other was just like, man, I need your prayers. I just need to know that you're there.
Yep.
And even though he's 1,000 miles away, he was there.
So we got a comment from Heather talking about small groups. And I was just thinking about this group and how this is kind of our small group.
Yeah.
And we kind of, because of this, we have, I don't know, we've kind of formed a bond.
Yeah.
But I mean, there was times that we'll go down on these text messages at
9:00 on a Monday night.
We'll
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
send I love Lucy.
I know.
Sure.
I was so excited when you did that. I was like, oh, I love Lucy.
but
And then I was trying to send Vegevita vitamin.
Vitamita Vegemin.
And I could not spell it. I had to like Google it because I'm like, it was not popping up right. And I'm like, no,
Good,
not
I never will.
vegetables. I'm like,
But Heather, I agree. I mean, small groups have always been good, and I know that Trinity in the past has tried. I don't know how small groups function and how they really grow, but I really think it's really the effort. We make an effort every Tuesday morning to come in here, not just because we're recording a podcast, well, we are, but we've made an effort to do this because even when we were snowing out, we were like, how do we do this?
yeah.
And we decided not to go virtual because it was our 30th episode, but I think in the future we would probably just do.
And the thing with I love small groups. Those are also that if you want it run by Trinity, that there's a full-time person that needs to oversee that. But a lot of times the small groups. So we started a bunch of small groups for the Red Letter Challenge that we did a couple years ago, and some of them just kind of did it for the Red Letter Challenge and then went on their separate ways. But there was one group that still, up until COVID, was still meeting together and getting together often and serving in their community and finding different ways. And it was because it wasn't because of what I was doing. It wasn't because I was, making sure that small group kept meeting. It was because they wanted to keep meeting. And yes, there were times where they called me and said, hey, we're just finishing up on this study. Do you have some ideas and where we could go next? But often it's just hey, how do you see God working in your life? What have you been reading? What has God been putting on your heart? Or even, hey, did you pay attention to the sermon this weekend? I mean, your small group, if you want to do this, absolutely.
Start a podcast. Why not?
Yeah. But just have this small group that make the sermon, that information piece, reflect on it, and then as individuals in that small group say, all right, this is what our family, this is how we're going to live differently this week.
And I have a men's group I do on Wednesday nights. And every person in that group is from a different congregation. We're not all part of Trinity. And so you probably already know this, but you're like, I can't do anything else at Trinity. Yes, you're all Christ. We're all the church. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And so
when we lived in Michigan,
soapbox here, but
when we lived in Michigan, we had 3 kids at that time, didn't we? Maybe
Bennett was born 2 weeks before we moved, if you recall.
I couldn't remember if Sam was born, but I think she was.
Don't move with a 2-week-old.
Don't move with a 2-week-old.
Your wife will thank you.
I've done that.
But we had
Lori, I've done that. We've done that too.
We had young children, and so we felt like if we're going to do a small group, like we can't take these 3 children to another person's house. So we're like, who do we like spending time with that we'd like to spend more time with? Oh. We can open up our home, so if they have kids, they can come over because it'll just add a couple more. We already have 3. Yeah. So we asked these families, like, we like spending time with you. You want to come over every other Tuesday or something?
But not you.
But not you.
I mean, we didn't.
Or no, you, but you keep your kids at home.
And the kids got a little wild, but it was this, we kind of like spending time with them and we'd like to get to know them better. Will you come and will you come and will you? There were 3 or 4 families, I think we asked.
And that's all it takes.
And we kind of started with a book study, but then it just kind of became this.
Just let's hang out and
talk. And
then also revolved around meatballs
later
for a while.
Made it Meatball Friday, but we still met with them.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
so hungry
tucked
now.
and braided.
I know. I'm getting hungry. He's talking about meatballs.
So sometimes it's just, hey, I myself am kind of lonely, and I like we connect well when I see them. Let's just, like you said, let's just decide to meet and do
Just-
it.
And do it. And you have to make a commitment.
Whether or not you have a
Yeah.
book that you discuss or you just sit and
Because I
talk
will
about life.
Yeah, I will say that there was a lot of people who want to do groups together, but then life gets in the way. But if you make it a priority, it's like, no, I can't do this because on Wednesday nights I have men's group. And Lori knows this. And the other guy, it was funny because we have another guy whose wife's like, yep, you don't mess with Wednesday night.
Yeah.
You know? And
I
so,
love it.
and then, but it's just, it allows me to be able to go out with a group of guys and sit and talk about, we're going through the book of Mark right now, which is interesting. This take of it is really, it's fun though.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like we did last time. We were looking at stuff we looked at me like, we've read this 1,000 times, but I never looked at it from this angle.
Yep.
Mhm.
It's,
Yep.
it's kind of nice.
And sometimes that's great. Whether it's we buy a book that we all do together, or we, whatever, or like I said, sometimes it's just, hey, let's get together. Let's talk about life. What are you struggling with? How can we pray for you? How do you see God messing with you? What's he put in front of you? Oh, he put in front of me this nonprofit idea that I need, like whatever,
Call your
like
mom.
call your mom.
I
TM.
love it.
Here.
I just do.
Hashtag call your mom.
Can
There it
somebody
is.
design a logo for us?
See, that's the thing. Like
My
we can't
sister
do it.
probably
Oh,
could.
there we go.
We can't. But
Kylie.
but there's someone who has those skills.
Mhm.
And that's so again, you might not be coming into the Trinity's building and doing something, but you're still serving your community by designing a logo, or by using the gifts and talents that God has given you. Doing things that you enjoy, but doing it for the service of your community, doing it for the service of God's people, but also doing it for the service of those who don't know Jesus, who need to.
Well, and it was so interesting in listening to both Stacy talk about hashtag call your mom, but also a little earlier in the conversation, listening to Lacey talk about preparing meals. Like watching both your eyes light up was really cool, because you could tell you had a passion for those things.
Yeah.
I can tell you the thing that struck me is the more Lacey talked about the details that went into like having food, like having different meals. Like I'm like, that sounds awful for me. Like you enjoyed that? Like I'd be stressed out, and like I'm pretty sure I'd go to store-bought cookies.
Hey,
There you go.
who brought cheeseburgers, like a cheeseburger bar, over to your house when your wife was having a bad day one day?
Yeah.
Cheeseburgers.
See, I grilled them. I wrapped them up in
Holy
foil.
That was
We
Lacey.
gotta stop talking about food, guys.
Yeah,
I'm hungry.
let's go out and eat after this. We're gonna get
Yeah.
hungry.
Need
But-
brunch.
But the
Ooh.
But Casey, then
But-
your eyes light up. Like when you talk, because you haven't talked about it here, but in church council, you've talked about starting kind of a mentorship program with
Yeah.
youth and older adults meeting with high schoolers and middle schoolers and
Call your dad.
call. But it doesn't have to be just
Call
men.
your uncle.
But
Well, if they're gonna call your mom, so
Oh,
we
really?
work together.
Yeah,
call your
dad.
crazy Uncle Steve.
yeah,
You know what's funny?
but your
Hi,
eyes
Steve.
light up.
Yeah.
Like and Lacey, if you were trying to start a mentorship program, your eyes probably wouldn't get too
No,
joy-filled.
I'd be super nervous, but you know what? I would love to teach people how to just do the things. You know,
Just
if
do
you
them.
want to learn how to start a meal train, I can help you with that. If you want to, I don't know, possibly learn how to
Organize a Sunday school. craft.
organize a Sunday school group, I can help you with that. If you need to organize your craft room, I can help you with that.
Yeah.
You know, I can do all of those
You know,
things.
there is a YouTube channel. It's like Ask Your Dad.
Yes, that's an
Mm,
awesome
yeah.
YouTube channel.
And it's one of those things that you kind of you look at and you're like, this is fantastic. He has a bazillion followers, but then at the same time, on the other token, I look at this side and goes, but this is needed.
Yeah.
Because how many people don't
That's
have a
why
dad that-
he has
Yeah,
all those
right.
followers,
Yeah.
because he's filling a need
Yep.
Well,
in the community.
But it's
And-
sad that it's needed because then
Yep.
you're not actually going and asking your
Your
dad.
dad.
Well,
Yeah.
or you don't have somebody that you can ask. That's
Correct.
my thought with
Yeah.
this is what would you ask a mom? Maybe you would ask your mom. What would you ask your mom if she were there? Maybe she's not a presence in your life for whatever reason. So what are these things you have questions of and you don't know who to ask?
Well,
Yeah.
and it was
YouTube.
Yeah.
Right.
YouTube will answer all questions.
Where you reach out and phone somebody you've not
Mhm.
called for a while. I will never
Yeah.
forget when Peyton got the hiccups for the first time and they lasted forever. And I was like, holy buckets, what do I do with this kid that keeps hiccuping? So I remember calling my friend Stancy. I'm like, Stancy has the hiccups. She's like, it'll go away. I'm like, are you sure? It's been like 10 minutes. And she's like, I'm positive it'll go away. And I'm like, okay, thanks. She's like, yeah, I'm here. No problem.
nope, he's hiccuping till he's 30.
Exactly.
There is a
Sometimes you
case
just
that
need
people
that.
have hiccuping for decades.
Uh-huh.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
They went
horrible.
away. He's okay.
Aren't you glad that you didn't call Paul?
No
Well,
kidding.
let me tell
Wow. Thanks, Paul. My anxiety would have went
Oh,
up
come
here. I'm
on.
like,
I would never have said that in the moment. I would have said it after I hung up.
So if you're
Hang up,
listening
make
to
sure
this
it's hung up,
podcast
then go.
and your child is hiccuping, call your mom, not Paul.
There's a reason why. Yeah,
All right.
there is a reason why moms and dads do different things.
and
So-
it's and
Because I would tell my kids, you're gonna hiccup forever, so just get used to it.
well, and it's that community. You have no idea how what you would think is little tidbits of insignificant information can help someone else. Like just it wasn't this past Sunday, but a Sunday before. The battery on our Ford Escape went out, and we needed to replace it. And I've replaced batteries on cars before. You know, it's a straightforward process for me. But I opened the hood of my Ford, and the battery is behind two different pieces of
yes.
of machinery, and I'm
Yes.
like, okay. I was literally just talking about, like, I was not really venting. I was just talking about the situation at church that morning, and someone's like, you know, you should talk to this guy. He knows Fords like no one else. And sure enough, shout out to Aaron. You're awesome. Like he's like, oh yeah, you'll remove this part and this part, and then you'll do this. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aaron's the one that got our told us where to go to get our muffler fixed. So hey, Aaron, you're the car guy now.
No, not just Ford.
Ford. It was our Ford also that needed fix. But
Oh, I know who you're
you-
talking about.
Yep.
Wolf Brothers' dad.
you guys can, like, you can see our passion. We could go on forever about what we're passionate about, where we see needs, where we want to fill needs. We want to hear what you're passionate about. We want to comment, send us an email. Where are those needs that you're seeing that just light up your eyes because, oh man, I can do that. I can help with that. And it might not be starting a 501c3. It might just be making a salad.
Call your mom.
But call your mom. But
It might be mentoring somebody.
it might be.
Yes.
A youth.
Yeah. So it might be running the camera in worship on a Sunday morning.
As someone who knew nothing about that and now does it about every 3 weeks, it's not as difficult as it
Yeah.
looks.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty
not as bad.
straightforward.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, whatever that is, you've seen our eyes light up as you live that out, as you live that feeling, that calling that God has placed on your lives. Man, that's when you get fulfilled. That's when fills your bucket. So let us know what God's putting into your hearts. Let us know what where you see those needs and where you have an idea of how you can fill those needs. But as we close today, let's close our time asking God that God would bless that and bless our weeks. So we pray. Dear Jesus, we thank you for these passions that you have given to each of us, and we're all different, but that's the beauty of this. We all make up different parts of your body. And so help us to use each of those passions to serve our communities, to serve those in need. Help us to see a need, and in whatever way that you have gifted us, help us to fill that need. We pray this in your name. Amen.
All right. Normally we would end this right here.
Yeah.
But we were on video, and so I wanted to say thank you very much. Make sure you like and subscribe,
Thank you.
Yeah.
and if you
And share.
And share.
There it
Make
is.
sure you share it all. And if you guys want to see these videos, want to share it, it's probably going to be easiest over at YouTube. So just type in PewTalk and YouTube, and you'll find us. Subscribe to that so you can get all of it. That's where we're going to archive everything because
Fantastic.
why not,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
All right. Anything else?
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul, for getting all the
Thanks,
tech set
Paul.
up.
This is fun. All
You
right.
made it happen.
We'll see you next
Something else
Tuesday.
that wouldn't be fun for me.
There you go.
We'll see you next Tuesday at 9:00. And bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us this week. We pray that the Holy Spirit has used this time to focus you in on the one thing that you can practice this week as you live out your faith in your family and in your community. If you found this helpful, feel free to share it with a friend. If you would like to support the work that God is doing through Trinity Fremont, you can text a donation to 1-844-353-5782, or you can give online at www.trinityfremont.com/donate.